My stepmom came to my door weeks after my husband's funeral claiming he got her pregnant, demanded child support from me, but I made her take a paternity test and the truth exposed everything. Can you even imagine? Weeks after I buried the love of my life, my own stepmom showed up at my door, not with condolences, but with a horrifying accusation. She claimed my deceased husband got her pregnant, and then had the audacity to demand I pay child support. You won't believe what happened when I forced her to take a paternity test. It wasn't just a test, it was a detonation. My world had already been ripped apart. Just a month and a half ago, a road accident snatched my husband away. 5 incredible years together, 3 beautiful ones married, and we were finally planning our family. And then he was just gone. I was barely picking up the pieces, trying to breathe again, when she decided to drop this nuclear bomb. This woman, let's call her Cindy, my stepmom, appeared at my house with my dad, looking like a caricature of grief. She said she needed to speak to both of us. And then, she spun this unbelievable tale about having an affair with my late husband. She was crying, putting on a whole show, claiming she was 4 months pregnant and now wanted to keep the baby. And get this, she said my husband had promised to take care of her and the baby, and since he wasn't around, I was supposed to step up. She wanted child support from me. My jaw must have hit the floor. Asked for proof, anything. A message, an email, a love letter? Anything to back up this insane story. She had nothing. Not one single shred of evidence. She just mumbled about them deleting everything to keep it secret. But if it was so serious that they were planning to leave their partners, wouldn't there be something? Something tangible? I knew, deep in my gut, it was a lie. My husband? Affair? With Cindy? He loved me fiercely. And honestly, she was just not his type. She's in her early 40s. He was in his late 20s, like me. He saw her as my dad's generation, even though he knew the age difference wasn't that big. We never talked about it, but you just know your partner. And I knew he didn't find her attractive. Not in a million years. So, even if he were to cheat, which I knew he never would, it certainly wouldn't be with her. But for some reason, my dad bought it. He actually bought her story. That day, I told Cindy exactly what I thought. I didn't believe a word. I said I wouldn't fund any baby because I knew it wasn't his, and she was disgusting for slandering his memory when he couldn't defend himself. My dad and Cindy got into this huge fight right there in my house, and he stormed out. But she didn't leave. Oh no. Cindy stayed, trying a new angle. Now that my dad was out of the picture, financially at least, she figured I was her new target. She said I was more financially stable, that I had my husband's money, and therefore, it was my responsibility to help her. I just stared at her, utterly disgusted, and told her to leave. She didn't go easily. I practically had to kick her out. And then, the next day, the true nightmare began. She posted everything on social media. Everything. Our entire family, her family, everyone started hounding me. Messages, calls, comments. They said I owed it to her, to my husband, that the baby would suffer. They were all acting like lunatics, making me the villain. Me, the one grieving. It was unbearable, especially when my emotional state was already so fragile. After a few excruciating weeks of this nonstop harassment, I couldn't take it anymore. I told Cindy I'd support her, wholeheartedly, if she could prove the baby was my husband's. She needed a paternity test. She blew up, of course. Called it humiliating, insulting, saying she didn't deserve this after all she'd been through. She even posted that on social media, stirring up even more hate for me. But I didn't budge. I deserved clarity, and I knew this was the only way to expose her lies. Last week, after I pushed and pushed, threatening to assume she was lying if she didn't comply, she finally agreed. I provided her with whatever she needed, some of his personal belongings, since he wasn't here. Then, she kept me waiting for 3 agonizing days. On the 4th, when she still hadn't contacted me, I demanded the results. She avoided me for another full day, but I kept calling, kept texting until finally she sent them. And then, she immediately blocked me. Good. Because those results proved exactly what I knew all along. The baby was not my husband's. A wave of pure vindication, a powerful, almost dizzying relief, washed over me. I didn't even think twice. I took a screenshot of those results and posted it directly to Facebook. No caption, no explanation, just the cold, hard proof. I didn't care if she tried to sue me. The truth was on my side. She started this. But here's where it gets even crazier. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought the truth would set me free. Instead, people doubled down. They started saying, well, if it's not your husband's baby, then it must be your father's. There must have been some misunderstanding, and that I should still support her financially because she'd been through so much trauma. My blood ran cold again. They still wouldn't let it go. They still wanted to believe the worst about my husband, despite concrete proof. I lost it. I made another post, a furious one, saying I wouldn't support anyone financially or otherwise. If they didn't like it, they could leave me alone. I was grieving, and they were slandering his memory. I even cursed Cindy out, using some pretty harsh words for a woman with loose morals. Needless to say, people were even more enraged. Even the few friends and family members who had been on my side told me the name-calling was unnecessary. But was it? After everything? Nobody had any idea how hard these past weeks had been. The constant attacks, the accusations against my husband, I just knew they weren't true. And it hurt, deeply, that people I'd known for years were turning against me for her sake. She started this whole mess, so why was my retaliation seen as wrong? Update 1 *. Okay, so I heard you guys. I read all the comments. And I decided to take my posts down. Not just the one where I cursed her out, but even the paternity test results. Because honestly, there's no point. No matter what I say or do, people are going to believe what they want. If they want to believe my husband was a bad guy, if they want to believe I'm heartless, if they want to believe Cindy is the victim, they will. They'll use anything against me. And you know what? I'm finally okay with that. Because I think I've figured out what this is really about. My husband and I, we've been successful. Hugely successful, actually. A few months after we got married, we quit our jobs and started a lifestyle brand together. It's been doing incredibly well, especially this past year. Losing him now, when we were flying so high, it's an extra layer of pain. But I'm still pushing forward because this was his dream, and I wanted to succeed for him. The thing is, we're the first entrepreneurs in our family to really make it. And I think that's been sitting wrong with everyone for a long time. They'd always talk about how much money we had, how successful we were, but never with pride. Always with resentment. Even my dad. So I think Cindy just gave them the perfect reason to hate me, served up on a platter. They don't hate me because I'm important. They hate me because I'm successful, and they can't handle it. Cindy herself said I should support the baby because I was doing better than my dad. It's all about the money, and it's all about their jealousy. I don't need to prove anything to them anymore. I'm done. The only thing I know for a fact is that the baby wasn't my husband's. And in my heart, I believe he never had anything to do with Cindy. People can believe what they want, and so can I. These last few weeks have been more than horrifying. They've been harder than even coming to terms with losing my husband, because at least with him, the grief was pure. This has been tainted ugly. I'm on my own now. Even my dad isn't speaking to me. I know he's not active on social media, but he must know by now the baby isn't my husband's. So, why the silence? Why am I being punished? If my husband had cheated, which he didn't, that would be his fault, not mine. Why is this all on me? I guess nobody has answers. So, I'm just trying to move on. Update 2 *. So, it's been about a month since my last update, and a couple of days ago, my dad tried to talk to me. We hadn't spoken since that day Cindy made her big revelation, when he stormed out of my house. He never reached out after that. But recently, he sent me an email. He said he was sorry about everything, that he was in a bad mental place. He'd heard about my posts about me taking them down, and he wanted to make things right. Honestly, I was kind of freaked out. I was finally moving on with my life, and I didn't want to get dragged back into this mess. But he's my father. I lost my mom years ago. I'd already lost 2 of the most important people in my life. I didn't want to lose him too, especially when he was still alive. So I decided to give him a chance. I called him, and he invited me over for dinner. I thought it would just be the two of us. I assumed after Cindy's stunt, he would have filed for divorce. I had no idea what was going on with them. He wasn't talking to me, and I certainly wasn't going to ask Cindy. I just assumed she wasn't with him anymore, that they'd separated. I was dead wrong. When I got to his place, Cindy opened the door. She looked as surprised to see me as I was to see her. It took a few seconds for my brain to catch up, but as soon as I realized she was going to be there for dinner, I turned around. I didn't say a word, didn't even acknowledge my dad. I just started walking back to my car. There was no way I was sitting down for a meal with that woman after everything she'd done. By the time I got home, my phone was blowing up. 6 missed calls, a bunch of frantic messages from my dad, asking where I'd gone. He then started explaining. He and Cindy had sorted things out. Even though they'd talked about separating, she had apparently come back to her senses and returned to him earlier that month. He claimed he was about to tell me, but had forgotten. Forgotten? This was a major detail. He knows everything that woman put me through, especially after my husband passed. She was heartless. And yet, he decided to take her back? I mean, even if the baby wasn't my husband's, it's someone's baby, right? Does my dad even know whose? My head was spinning. But honestly, it's not my business anymore. If he wants to forgive her and pretend nothing happened, that's his choice. But I'm not going to sit there and pretend with them. She is the worst person I've ever met, and I will never forgive her. When I finally picked up, my dad was still trying to explain, still saying he'd forgotten. I told him I didn't believe him. Then he started begging me to come back, saying Cindy had things to say, that we could all sort things out. But I told him, even though I had a million questions and a million things to say, there was no point. No point at all. I wasn't coming back. I had no intention of clearing the air with them. I was perfectly fine not having anything to do with either of them again. I gave him a chance, and he blew it. That's not my problem. I hung up, and I've blocked him everywhere since then. I'm not dealing with it. None of this is my problem anymore. Update 3*K. It's been a couple of weeks since my last update, and like I said, I cut my dad and Cindy out of my life completely. Cindy, I hadn't really been in touch with anyway. But with my dad, I'd had some hope of reconciliation after that email. That hope died the moment he decided to get back together with her. I blocked them, so they couldn't reach me. But today, my dad showed up at my house. And once again, he brought Cindy. I just don't understand it. I've made it crystal clear I want nothing to do with that woman. I hate her, and I'll never forgive her. So why would he bring her, knowing it would only make me less receptive? The moment I looked out the peephole and saw both of them, I knew I wasn't letting them in. If it had just been my dad, maybe. But with her, nothing good could come of it. They kept ringing the doorbell, saying they knew I was home. My dad was practically pleading, begging me to open up, saying he didn't want to lose me. He even started talking about my mom, saying she would have wanted us to talk it out. That's where I lost it. I flung the door open. I just flung it. And I started yelling, right in his face. I told him he had no right to bring Mom up just to get what he wanted. He was using her, manipulating me, and if he thought I wouldn't pick up on it, he was wrong. It didn't work the way he wanted, but it did get me to open the door. After I finished screaming at him about my mom, I told them, "Fine. Come in. Both of you. Because I really want to know what's so urgent that you had to pull such cheap tricks." They came in, and he immediately started apologizing for bringing up Mom, saying he couldn't think of any other way to get me to open the door. I said nothing. I just let them talk. And the long and short of it, they finally explained everything from the beginning. It turns out I was right all along. This was all about money. My dad and Cindy had been having serious financial troubles. His business wasn't doing well, and he's retiring soon. She's used to a certain lifestyle, and they were fighting constantly about expenses. Out of sheer desperation, she made up the entire affair story. When that didn't work out, she cut her losses and went back to my dad. But he demanded a paternity test. And this time, guess what? The results were positive. The baby was actually my father's, so now they want to keep this miracle baby. and they want me to support them. Not financially, they said, but just to forgive them and offer emotional support. I don't need to go into all the melodrama and crying as they told their story. I just told them to get out. There was no way I was forgiving them, especially after finding out Cindy had made up that whole disgusting lie about my husband. That's not desperation. That's greed. If they truly needed money, they could have just asked. But she chose to defame my deceased husband for no reason. I was not going to take that. And honestly, I'm not even sure I believe all of it. I wouldn't be surprised if she had been having an affair with someone else, and only when she was cornered did my dad step up to claim the baby to save face. Either way, they expected me to forgive and forget. But I'm not that person. Not when my husband was dragged through the mud. Even after his death. I told them to leave. When they refused to go without my forgiveness, I told them I'd call the cops. They were difficult, but eventually I did it. I called the police. My dad was hysterical. It was hard to see him like that, to deal with all of this alone, but I did it. And I'm filing for a restraining order against them. I don't need this in my life. I'm just going to pretend I don't have either parent, which, given everything that's happened, shouldn't be too hard. Update 4 asterisk. It's been a couple of months since that last encounter, and a lot has changed. I've been trying my best to move on. Grieving won't bring him back, so I decided to start fresh. I moved away, expanded my business. I brought a close friend on as a partner. She runs things back home, and I'm focusing on a new state. It's going well, and I'm so proud of myself. I know he would be too. I don't know much about my family anymore. My friends let me know that my dad and Cindy welcomed their miracle baby a couple of weeks ago. Good for them, I guess. Whatever makes them happy. I don't care. The restraining order is in place. I have no intention of ever dealing with them again. And honestly, I'm happy with how my life is right now. Voice softens, but remains firm and reflective. This whole ordeal, it taught me so much about betrayal, about forgiveness, and about standing up for yourself, even when everyone turns against you. It was ugly, it was painful, but it led me to where I am now. I'm curious, though. What would you all have done in my place? Have you ever faced something so unbelievably cruel and unjust? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.